The Zorathians thought they could do whatever they wanted. They were tall, shiny aliens with glowing eyes and long, thin fingers that sparkled like glass. Their home was a giant fortress made of crystals that shimmered in every color of the rainbow. It floated in space, hidden behind a dark cloud where no one could see it. They believed they were smarter than everyone else, especially humans. They thought humans were weak, easy to trick, and not worth caring about. So they made a terrible plan. They decided to capture 10 humans and bring them to their secret crystal fortress. They didn't ask permission. They didn't explain why. They just took them. Deep inside the fortress, there was a special room. This room was cold and quiet, with walls that glowed faintly like stars trapped in ice. The Zorathians called it the Silent Chamber. It was a place where no sound could escape and no one could hear you scream. They brought the 10 humans here, one by one, their hands tied with shimmering ropes that burned if they moved too much. The humans were scared, but they stayed brave. They didn't cry or beg. They just looked at the Zorathians with steady eyes, waiting to see what would happen next. The Zorathians had a special power. Some of them were mind readers. These aliens could touch your head with their long, glowing fingers and see every thought in your mind. They could find your secrets, your fears, and even your happiest memories. They thought this made them unstoppable. They believed that by reading the humans' minds, they could learn everything about Earth, how to control it, how to make its people obey. They wanted to know where Earth's ships were, how its machines worked, and what its leaders were planning. They thought the humans would be easy to break, like cracking open a fragile egg. One by one, the Zorathian mind readers stepped forward. Their leader, a tall alien named Zorak, stood at the front. His eyes glowed bright red and his voice was like a low hum that made the air shake. "Tell us your secrets," he said to the first human, a young woman with short brown hair. She didn't answer. She just stared back, her face calm. Zorak smirked and placed his fingers on her head. His eyes glowed brighter as he tried to dig into her thoughts. But something strange happened. The woman didn't scream or cry. Instead, Zorak stumbled back, his hands shaking. He looked confused, like he'd seen something he didn't understand. The other Zorathians whispered to each other, unsure what was wrong. They moved to the next human, a man with a scruffy beard. Again, a mind reader touched his head. This time the alien gasped and fell to his knees, clutching his own head like it hurt. The humans didn't say a word. They just stood there, strong and silent. The Zorathians tried again and again with each of the 10 humans. Every time the mind readers staggered back, some screaming, some shaking. One even collapsed on the floor, his glowing eyes dimming like a dying light. The Zorathians didn't understand. They thought humans were simple, with weak minds full of easy thoughts. But these humans were different. Their minds were like locked doors, hiding something powerful. The Zorathians didn't care about the humans' pain or fear. They didn't give them food or water. They didn't let them rest. They just kept them in the silent chamber, trying to break into their minds. They thought no one would notice. After all, the fortress was hidden. No one knew where the humans were. The Zorathians believed the galaxy wouldn't care about 10 missing people from a small planet like Earth. They thought Earth was too weak to fight back. They were sure no one was watching, but they were wrong. Far away across the stars, people were paying attention. Other aliens in the galaxy heard whispers about the missing humans. Some of these aliens were friends with Earth. They sent secret messages to Earth's leaders telling them what they'd heard. On Earth, people were angry. Families were worried. Friends were scared. The 10 humans weren't just random people. They were important to someone somewhere. And Earth wasn't going to stay quiet. The Zorathians didn't know it, but their cruel plan was already starting to fail. They thought they could hide their actions, but the galaxy was like a big web. Every move they made sent ripples outward, and those ripples reached places they didn't expect. On a small space station near Earth, a group of pilots heard about the missing humans. They started checking their maps, looking for signs of the Zorathian fortress. On another planet, a trader who sold metal to Earth's ships passed along a clue about a strange crystal structure seen in the dark cloud. Little by little, the pieces were coming together. The Zorathians had made a big mistake. They thought no one would care about 10 humans. They thought Earth was small and weak, a planet that could be ignored. But Earth was listening, its people were watching, and they were already starting to plan. The Zorathians didn't know it yet, but they had just woken up something strong, something they couldn't control. The humans weren't going to let this go. They were going to fight back, not with shouts or tears, but with something much smarter. In the silent chamber, the 10 humans stood tall. They didn't know what was happening outside the fortress, but they could feel something. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was strength. They looked at each other, their eyes meeting in the dim glow of the crystal walls. They didn't need to speak. They knew they weren't alone. Somewhere, out in the stars, Earth was coming for them. The Zorathians kept trying to read their minds, but each time they failed. The mind readers were getting tired. Some were scared. Zorak, the leader, was angry. He shouted at his team, demanding answers. "Why can't you break them?" he yelled. His voice echoed in the chamber, but no one had an answer. The humans' minds were like walls of steel, impossible to crack. Zorak didn't understand it, but he was starting to feel something new: worry. He had never seen anything like this before. He thought he was in control, but now he wasn't so sure. Outside the fortress, the galaxy kept buzzing with news. A small ship from Earth was already on its way, moving quietly through the stars. It wasn't a warship. It wasn't big or loud. It was small, fast, and filled with people who knew how to find things that were hidden. They had heard about the Crystal Fortress. They had heard about the 10 humans, and they were ready to do something about it. The Zorathians didn't know any of this. They thought their plan was perfect. They thought they could keep the humans locked away forever, stealing their thoughts and using them to take over Earth. They thought no one would fight back. They thought no one would care. But they were wrong. The galaxy was watching and Earth was ready. The Zorathians had started something they couldn't stop, and soon they would learn just how big a mistake they had made. This was only the beginning. The humans in the silent chamber were still trapped, but they weren't broken. They stood strong, their eyes bright with courage. They didn't know what Earth was planning, but they trusted their home. They knew someone was coming for them. And they knew the Zorathians were about to face something they could never imagine. The crystal fortress floated silently in the dark cloud, its walls glowing with stolen light. The Zorathians thought they were safe. They thought they were smart. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know that Earth was already moving, already planning, already fighting back. The 10 humans were the spark, and that spark was about to start a fire that would burn across the stars. The 10 humans trapped in the Zorathian fortress weren't just random people. Each one had someone who loved them, someone important who would never let them be forgotten. The Zorathians thought they could take these people and no one would care. They thought humans were weak and unimportant, but they were wrong. These humans were special, and their families and friends were powerful. The Zorathians had no idea who they were messing with. The first human was a woman named Layla. She had short brown hair and a quiet smile that made people feel safe. Leela was the sister of a genius hacker named Max. Max wasn't just any coder. He was the one who built the computer systems that kept Earth cities safe from alien attacks. His programs were like invisible shields, stopping enemy ships before they could even get close. When Max heard Leela was taken, his heart hurt, but his mind got sharp. He sat at his computer, his fingers flying over the keys, already searching for a way to find her. Max wasn't going to let his sister stay trapped. He was too smart for that. The second human was a man named Tom. He had a scruffy beard and eyes that sparkled when he laughed. Tom was best friends with a commander named Sarah who led Earth's biggest space fleet. Sarah had flown through storms of lasers and dodged exploding stars to win battles no one thought she could. She was tough, but she loved Tom like a brother. They had grown up together, exploring forests and dreaming of the stars. When Sarah found out Tom was gone, she didn't cry. She got quiet and her eyes turned hard like steel. She called her pilots together and started making a plan. The Zorathians didn't know it, but Sarah's fleet was already getting ready to move. The third human was a young girl named Aisha. She was only 16, but she was brave and smart. Aisha was the daughter of a scientist named Dr. Patel, who built machines that could talk to other planets. Dr. Patel's inventions helped Earth trade with friendly aliens, sharing food and tools across the galaxy. Aisha loved helping her dad in his lab, handing him tools and asking questions. When Dr. Patel heard his daughter was taken, he stopped his work. He looked at the stars through his window and promised Aisha he'd bring her home. His machine started humming, sending secret signals to find the Zorathian fortress. The fourth human was a man named Javier. He was a teacher who told stories that made kids laugh and dream. Javier was loved by a woman named Captain Alina, who flew a small but fast ship called the Starhawk. Alina wasn't part of a big fleet, but she was famous for sneaking past enemy defenses. She could fly through dangerous asteroid fields without a scratch. Javier and Alina were going to get married someday, and she wore a tiny silver ring he gave her. When Alina heard Javier was gone, she climbed into her ship and checked her maps. She didn't need a big army. She just needed her ship and her courage. The fifth human was a woman named May. She was a cook who made meals that brought people together. May was the best friend of a builder named Leo, who made houses and schools for people on new planets. Leo's buildings were strong, able to stand against storms and quakes. When he heard May was taken, he stopped his work and called his team. They started designing something new, not a house, but a tool to help find the fortress. Leo wasn't a fighter, but he was smart, and he wasn't going to let his friend stay trapped. The sixth human was a boy named Sam. He was only 12, but he loved fixing things like broken radios and old robots. Sam's uncle was a general named Marcus, who led Earth's ground soldiers. Marcus had fought in battles on dusty planets and icy moons. He was big and strong, with a voice that could make anyone listen. When Marcus learned Sam was taken, he felt like a piece of his heart was gone. He gathered his soldiers and told them to get ready. Marcus wasn't going to let the Zorathians keep his nephew. He was already planning a way to get him back. The seventh human was a woman named Tara. She was a doctor who helped sick people get better. Tara was married to a pilot named Zara, who flew rescue ships to save people stuck in space. Zara's ships were fast and carried medicines and food to those in need. When Zara heard Tara was gone, she didn't wait. She jumped into her rescue ship and started searching the stars. Zara's heart was breaking, but she stayed focused. She knew Tara was counting on her and she wasn't going to give up. The eighth human was a man named Omar. He was a farmer who grew food in giant greenhouses on Mars. Omar's brother was a trader named Ali, who flew ships full of supplies between planets. Ali knew every corner of the galaxy, every hidden path through the stars. When Ali heard Omar was taken, he stopped his trading and started asking questions. He talked to other traders, to aliens, to anyone who might know where the Zorathian fortress was. Ali wasn't a soldier, but he was clever, and he was already finding clues. The ninth human was a girl named Sophie. She was a musician who played songs that made people feel strong. Sophie's mom was a leader named Grace who helped run Earth's biggest space station. Grace made sure ships had fuel, food, and places to rest. When she heard Sophie was gone, Grace didn't panic. She called her team together and started checking every signal coming from space. Grace was calm, but inside she was burning with anger. She wasn't going to let the Zorathians keep her daughter. The 10th human was a man named Ben. He was an artist who painted pictures of the stars. Ben was the son of a woman named Admiral Kim, who led Earth's entire space navy. Admiral Kim was famous for winning battles against bigger, stronger enemies. She was tough but fair, and she loved Ben more than anything. When she heard he was taken, she stood on the bridge of her biggest ship and looked out at the stars. She didn't say much, but her crew knew she was planning something big. The Zorathians had no idea what was coming. Each of these humans was special, not just because of who they were, but because of who cared about them. Max, the hacker, was already breaking into Zorathian signals. Sarah, the commander, was fueling her ships. Dr. Patel was sending messages to find the fortress. Elena was flying through the stars, quiet and fast. Leo was building something new. Marcus was training his soldiers. Zara was searching for her wife. Ali was gathering clues. Grace was watching every signal. And Admiral Kim was ready to lead. The Zorathians thought they had taken nobodies, people who wouldn't be missed. They thought Earth was small and weak, a planet that couldn't fight back. But they didn't know these humans. They didn't know Layla, Tom, Aisha, Javier, May, Sam, Tara, Omar, Sophie, or Ben. They didn't know about Max's codes, Sarah's fleet, Dr. Patel's machines, Elena's ship, Leo's tools, Marcus's soldiers, Zara's courage, Ali's secrets, Grace's station, or Admiral Kim's power. They thought they could hide in their crystal fortress and no one would care. But they were wrong. These 10 humans weren't just strangers. They were sisters, brothers, daughters, sons, friends, and loved ones. They were connected to people who wouldn't stop until they were safe. The Zorathians thought they could break the humans and steal their secrets, but instead they had made a terrible mistake. They had hurt the wrong people, and now those people's families and friends were coming together. They weren't loud about it. They didn't shout or make threats. They just started working, planning, and moving. Across Earth and its stations, the word was spreading. People whispered about the 10 humans. They shared stories about who they were and what they meant. Leela's smile, Tom's laugh, Aisha's curiosity, Javier's stories, May's food, Sam's fixes, Tara's kindness, Omar's crops, Sophie's songs, Ben's paintings. These weren't just names. They were people who made life better, and now they were gone, but not for long. The Zorathians didn't know it yet, but the galaxy was starting to turn against them. Other aliens who liked Earth were helping. They sent messages, shared maps, and pointed to the dark cloud where the fortress hid. Earth's people were listening, and they were ready. The 10 humans in the silent chamber didn't know all this, but they could feel something. They stood together, their eyes strong, their hearts steady. They trusted Earth. They trusted their families. And they knew the Zorathians were about to learn a big lesson. The Zorathians thought they were in control. They thought they could take anyone and no one would fight back. But they didn't understand humans. They didn't know how much love and strength connected these 10 people to the ones they left behind. They didn't know that hurting them would wake up something unstoppable. The Zorathians had made a mistake, and soon they would see just how wrong they were. The Zorathians thought they had won. They had 10 humans locked away in their secret crystal fortress, and they believed no one could touch them. But humans don't give up easily. They didn't send messages or make loud threats. Instead, they started to fight back in a quiet, clever way. They didn't use big armies or noisy battles. They used small, smart moves that the Zorathians didn't see coming. And that was just the beginning. Somewhere in the dark of space, a Zorathian ship floated near a quiet star. It was a big ship, shiny and sharp, carrying supplies to the fortress. The crew was relaxed, thinking they were safe. But then something strange happened. The ship's lights flickered. The engine stopped humming. The screens went black. The crew tried to fix it, shouting and pressing buttons, but nothing worked. Then, poof, the ship was gone. It didn't explode or crash. It just vanished like it had never been there. The Zorathians back at the fortress heard about it, but they didn't worry. "Just a glitch," they said, laughing. "Maybe they got lost." They didn't know it was no accident. On a rocky planet far away, a Zorathian mining station stood tall. It was a huge machine, digging up shiny rocks to make their weapons stronger. The workers there were busy, moving crates and checking screens. Then one day the machine stopped. The drills went quiet. The lights shut off. The workers ran around, trying to figure out what was wrong, but every system was dead. No alarms, no signals, nothing. The station was silent, like a toy with no batteries. The Zorathians sent a team to check, but when they got there, the place was empty. Not a single clue was left behind. The Zorathians scratched their heads and laughed again. "Bad luck," they said, but it wasn't luck. These weren't random problems. Humans were behind them. On Earth, people like Max the hacker were already working. Max sat in a small room, his computer glowing in the dark. He typed fast, his eyes focused. He had found a way to sneak into the Zorathian systems. He didn't blow anything up or make a big show. He just sent tiny codes like invisible bugs into their ships and stations. These codes turned off engines, locked doors, and erased maps. Max didn't need a gun. His computer was his weapon, and he was good at using it. Meanwhile, Captain Alina was flying her small ship, the Starhawk. It was fast and quiet, like a shadow moving through space. Alina didn't have a big crew, just a few trusted friends who knew how to stay hidden. They found a Zorathian supply route, a path where ships carried food and tools to the fortress. Alina's ship slipped in close, so close the Zorathians didn't see her. She didn't fire lasers or drop bombs. Instead, she used a special device to mess with the ship's signals. The Zorathian ship thought it was going one way, but Elena's device tricked it into flying somewhere else, straight into a dark part of space where no one could find it. By the time the Zorathians noticed, it was too late. Back on Earth, Leo the Builder was helping too. He wasn't fighting with ships or codes. He was making things. In his workshop, he and his team built small drones no bigger than a soccer ball. These drones could fly through space without being seen. They didn't carry weapons. Instead, they carried tiny tools that could stick to Zorathian machines and make them stop working. One drone landed on a Zorathian satellite, a big dish that sent messages to their ships. The drone attached itself and sent a signal that turned the satellite off. No messages could get through. The Zorathians didn't know why their signals stopped. They thought it was another accident, but Leo knew better. These small moves were happening all over the galaxy. A Zorathian fuel station stopped working one night. Its pumps froze and no ships could refuel. A communication tower went silent, cutting off a whole Zorathian fleet. A storage base lost power and all its food spoiled. Each time the Zorathians shrugged and said it was nothing. They laughed and called it bad luck. They didn't see the pattern. They didn't realize that every problem was connected, like pieces of a puzzle coming together. On a space station near Earth, Grace, the leader, was watching everything. She sat in a control room surrounded by screens that showed maps of the stars. Her team tracked every Zorathian ship and station. When Max's codes worked or Elena's ship struck, Grace saw it on her screens. She didn't smile or cheer. She just nodded and kept working. Grace knew these small attacks were only the start. She was helping the others stay organized, making sure every move was perfect. She sent messages to her team, telling them where to strike next. Her station was like the brain of the plan, keeping everyone together. Far away, Ali the trader was doing his part. He flew his ship to markets where aliens bought and sold things. He talked to other traders, asking questions and listening carefully. He heard stories about Zorathian ships acting strange, losing their way or breaking down. Ali didn't tell anyone he was helping Earth. He just smiled and kept listening. Then, he passed the information to Grace and the others. Ali's clues helped them know where to hit next. He was like a spy, moving quietly and gathering secrets. Even Dr. Patel, the scientist, was helping. In his lab, he worked on a new machine. It wasn't a weapon or a ship. It was a signal jammer, a box that could block Zorathian messages. He tested it on a small Zorathian probe floating near Earth. The probe stopped sending signals and floated away, useless. Dr. Patel sent his jammer plans to other scientists who started building more. Soon, Zorathian outposts were losing contact with each other. They couldn't talk or plan. Dr. Patel's quiet invention was making them weak. The Zorathians didn't understand what was happening. They sat in their crystal fortress looking at reports of broken machines and missing ships. Their leader, Zorak, was getting annoyed. "Fix it," he shouted at his workers. But they didn't know how. The problems were too strange, too perfect. Zorak still thought it was nothing serious. He believed humans were too small to cause trouble. He laughed and told his team to keep working on the captured humans. He thought their mind readers would soon break through and find Earth's secrets. He didn't know humans were already fighting back. On Earth, the families of the 10 humans were working together. Sarah, the commander, was readying her fleet, but she also helped with the small attacks. She sent a few of her best pilots to fly near Zorathian stations. They didn't shoot or fight. They just dropped tiny devices that stuck to the stations and messed with their power. One station lost its air supply for a few hours, scaring the workers inside. They fixed it, but they were nervous. Sarah's pilots were already gone, planning their next move. Marcus, the general, was helping too. He didn't send soldiers into space yet. Instead, he trained them to use new tools that could hack Zorathian systems from far away. His team worked with Max, learning how to send codes that turned off lights or locked doors. One night, a Zorathian guard post went dark. The guards couldn't see or move. They didn't know humans on Earth were behind it, sitting at computers thousands of miles away. Zara, the rescue pilot, was out in space too. She flew her ship to a Zorathian repair dock where they fixed broken ships. Zara didn't attack. She used a special light to trick the dock's sensors. The sensors thought a big storm was coming, so the dock shut down for safety. No ships could be fixed that day. Zara flew away before anyone saw her. She smiled, knowing she was helping Tara, her wife, who was still trapped in the fortress. These small attacks were like pebbles thrown into a pond. Each one made a ripple, and the ripples were getting bigger. The Zorathians didn't see the whole picture. They thought each problem was separate, a broken ship here, a dead station there. They didn't realize humans were working together, hitting them from every side. The attacks were quiet, careful, and smart. No one was hurt. No big battles were fought. But the Zorathians were starting to lose control. Back in the silent chamber, the 10 humans could feel something changing. They didn't know about the missing ships or the broken stations. They didn't know about Max's codes, Alina's tricks, or Leo's drones. But they could see Varkis sat in his shiny crystal office, high above the Zorathian fortress. His long, glowing fingers tapped nervously on a glowing table. Varkis was a tall alien with eyes like burning coals, and he was used to being in control. For years he had led the Zorathians, making plans and giving orders. Nothing scared him until now. Something was wrong. Reports kept coming in and they didn't make sense. Ships were disappearing. Stations were shutting down. Systems were failing. At first, Varkis thought it was just bad luck. But now he saw a pattern. This wasn't random. Someone was doing this on purpose, and he was starting to think it was the humans. The first report came a few days ago. A Zorathian scout ship, small but fast, had vanished near a quiet star. The crew never sent a distress call. They were just gone, like a light switching off. Varkis didn't worry much at first. Space was big and ships sometimes got lost. But then another report arrived. A mining station on a dusty planet stopped sending messages. Its machines froze and its workers couldn't fix them. Varkis sent a team to check, but the station was empty, its lights dark and its tools silent. He told himself it was a small problem, nothing serious. But deep down, a tiny seed of worry started to grow. More reports came. A fuel depot in a faraway sector stopped working. Its pumps wouldn't move and ships couldn't refuel. A communication tower used to send orders to Zorathian fleets went quiet. No signals went out and no messages came in. A factory that built Zorathian weapons shut down without warning. Its power was gone and its workers stood around confused. Each time, Varkis's advisors said it was an accident. Old machines, they said. Bad wiring. But Varkis wasn't so sure. The problems were happening too often, and they were too perfect. Varkis called a meeting in the fortress's grand hall. The room was huge, with walls that sparkled like diamonds. Other Zorathian leaders sat around a long table, their glowing eyes flickering nervously. Varkis stood at the head, holding a crystal tablet that showed all the reports. "Tell me what's happening," he said, his voice sharp. His advisors looked at each other, unsure. One, a short alien named Clyra, spoke up. "It's just a few mistakes, High Seer. We'll fix them." But Varkis shook his head. "Mistakes don't happen in the same places, at the same times, in the same ways," he said. "This is a plan." He pointed to a map on his tablet showing the galaxy. Red dots marked where each problem happened: ships gone, stations dark, systems broken. The dots weren't scattered. They formed a pattern like a line circling closer to the fortress. Varkis's eyes narrowed. "These aren't accidents," he said. "Someone is targeting us." His advisors whispered, their voices uneasy. "Who would dare?" one asked. Varkis didn't answer right away. He was thinking about the 10 humans locked in the silent chamber. He had thought they were weak, easy to control, but now he wasn't so sure. Varkis remembered the mind reader's reports. They had tried to break into the humans' thoughts, but something was wrong. The humans didn't break. Instead, the mind readers stumbled back, shaking or screaming. One had even fainted, his glowing fingers trembling. Varkis had yelled at them, calling them weak. But now he wondered if the humans were hiding something. Were their minds stronger than he thought? Were they connected to these strange attacks? He didn't know, but the idea made his stomach twist. He sent his best scouts to investigate. They flew to the places where ships had vanished. They found nothing, no wreckage, no clues, just empty space. They checked the mining station, but its machines were locked, their screens showing strange codes no one could read. The fuel depot's systems were scrambled, like someone had rewritten their instructions. Varkis's scouts came back with no answers, and that made him worry more. Whoever was doing this was smart, smarter than he expected. Back in the fortress, Varkis walked to the silent chamber to see the humans himself. The room was cold, its crystal walls glowing faintly. The 10 humans stood in a line, their hands tied with shimmering ropes. They didn't look scared. Their eyes were steady, watching him. Varkis stared at them, trying to understand. "What are you hiding?" he asked, his voice low. The humans didn't answer. Leela, the woman with short brown hair, just looked at him, her face calm. Tom, the man with the scruffy beard, tilted his head, almost smiling. Varkis felt a chill. These weren't the weak humans he expected. They knew something, and they weren't telling. He left the chamber and went back to his office. More reports were waiting. A Zorathian supply base had lost contact. Its workers said the lights went out and their computers showed error messages they'd never seen before. A patrol ship sent a panicked call, saying its navigation was broken, sending it toward a dangerous asteroid field. Then the call cut off. Varkis slammed his fist on the table. "This isn't normal," he shouted. His advisors jumped, their eyes wide. They weren't used to seeing Varkis lose his calm. He called for his top engineer, a Zorathian named Siles. Siles was short, with quick hands and a sharp mind. "Find out what's wrong with our systems," Varkis ordered. Siles nodded and went to work, checking the fortress's computers. He found something strange. Tiny bits of code, like invisible bugs, were hiding in the systems. They weren't Zorathian codes. They were new, clever, and hard to find. Sillies tried to remove them, but they kept coming back like weeds in a garden. He reported to Varkis, his voice shaking. "Someone is hacking us," he said. "They're inside our machines." Varkis's eyes glowed brighter, his worry turning to anger. "Who?" he demanded. Sillies hesitated. "I don't know," he said, "but it's not one of our enemies. The code is different. It's human." Varkis froze. Human. He had laughed at humans, calling them soft and simple. But now his fortress was under attack, and humans were the only ones who made sense. They were the ones whose people were locked in his chamber. They were the ones with a reason to fight back. He thought about the humans in the silent chamber again. Layla, Tom, Aisha, Javier, May, Sam, Tara, Omar, Sophie, and Ben. He had thought they were nothing, just prisoners to be used, but now he saw them differently. Were they part of this? Did they know what was happening? He sent more mind readers to try again, but the results were the same. The mind readers came back shaking, their faces pale. "Their minds are locked," one said. "It's like trying to open a door with no key." Varkis clenched his fists. He didn't understand, and that scared him. Outside the fortress, the attacks kept coming. A Zorathian trade ship carrying rare metals stopped moving. Its crew said the engines turned off and the controls wouldn't respond. A guard post near a blue star went dark, its lights and alarms shutting down. A satellite used to watch for enemy ships stopped sending signals. Each time the Zorathians found no clues. No bombs, no lasers, no signs of a fight, just silence. Varkis's advisors were getting nervous. What if it's the humans? One whispered. Varkis glared at him. "Humans," he said, trying to sound strong. "They're nothing." But his voice wasn't as sure as before. Varkis started to check the fortress's own systems. He ordered his workers to test every computer, every wire, every signal. They found more of those strange codes hiding in the fortress's machines. The codes weren't loud or obvious. They were quiet, sneaking in like mice. They turned off small things, lights, doors, cameras. Nothing big, but enough to make everyone uneasy. Varkis realized the fortress wasn't as safe as he thought. If someone could get into his systems, they could get to him. He called another meeting, this time smaller, with only his most trusted advisors. "We need to find them," he said. "Whoever is doing this, we need to stop them." He sent out more ships to patrol the dark cloud around the fortress. He told them to watch for anything strange, small ships, odd signals, anything. But the patrols found nothing. The humans were too clever, hiding in the shadows, striking and disappearing. Varkis's worry grew bigger. He wasn't sleeping anymore. His glowing eyes were dim, and his hands shook when he thought no one was looking. In the silent chamber, the humans could sense the change. The Zorathian guards were jumpy, checking their screens more often. The mind readers came less, too tired or too scared to try again. The humans didn't speak, but they shared looks. Leela nodded at Aisha, who stood tall despite her tied hands. Tom winked at Sam, who managed a small smile. They didn't know exactly what was happening, but they could feel it. Something was shifting. The Zorathians were losing their calm, and that meant hope. Varkis went back to his office and stared at his tablet. The red dots on the map were growing. More ships gone, more stations silent. He tried to connect the dots to understand the plan. It wasn't random. It was careful, like a game of chess. Each move was small but perfect, hitting the Zorathians where it hurt. Varkis thought about Earth, a small blue planet he had laughed at. He had thought its people were weak, too small to matter. But now he saw something else. The humans weren't scared. They weren't running. They were fighting back, and they were smart. He sent a message to his fleet commanders. "Double the guards," he said. "Watch every corner of the fortress. No one gets in or out." He thought this would keep him safe. But the humans didn't need to come inside. They were already attacking from far away with codes and tricks and silent strikes. Varkis didn't know who was leading them, Max with his computers, Sarah with her ships, or someone else. But he knew one thing: the humans were getting ready for something bigger. The Zorathians were starting to feel trapped. Their fortress, once a shining symbol of power, felt like a cage. Workers whispered about the humans, about the strange attacks. Some wanted to let the prisoners go, hoping it would stop the problems, but Varkis refused. "We will break them," he said, his voice loud but shaky. He didn't want to admit he was scared. He didn't want to believe humans could challenge him. But the reports kept coming, and the pattern was clear. The humans were coming, and Varkis was running out of time. Back on Earth, something big was happening, but it was quiet. No one shouted about it. No one put it on the news. In a plain building with no signs or flags, a group of people gathered in a small room. The room had no windows, just a table, some chairs, and a map of the stars on a big screen. These weren't just any people. They were leaders, each one tied to the 10 humans trapped in the Zorathian fortress. They had lost sisters, brothers, friends, and children. Their hearts hurt, but they weren't here to cry or talk. They were here to make a plan, a secret plan to win. Max, the genius hacker, sat at one end of the table. His eyes were tired, but his fingers tapped fast on his laptop. He was Leela's brother, and he hadn't slept since she was taken. Max had already started the fight by sending codes to shut down Zorathian ships and stations. But he knew those were small moves. Now he was ready for something bigger. He showed the group a screen filled with lines of code. "This can get into their fortress," he said. "It'll open doors, turn off their cameras, and mess with their power." The others nodded. Max's plan wasn't loud, but it was clever, like a key to unlock a giant lock. Sarah, the fleet commander, sat next to Max. She was Tom's best friend, and her hands were clenched tight. Sarah led Earth's biggest space fleet, and she was used to winning battles against tough enemies. She wore a dark jacket with stars pinned to it, each one for a battle she'd won. "My ships are ready," she said, "but we won't fly in with lasers blazing. We'll move quietly, hit their weak spots, and stay hidden." Sarah had a map of the dark cloud where the Zorathian fortress hid. She pointed to spots where her ships could sneak in without being seen. Her plan was to confuse the Zorathians, not fight them head-on. Dr. Patel, Aisha's father, leaned forward. He was a scientist who built machines that talked to other planets. His glasses slid down his nose as he spoke. "I've got a new device," he said. "It sends fake signals to trick Zorathian sensors. Their ships will think they see a fleet coming from one side, but will be on the other." Dr. Patel's device was small, like a lunchbox, but it could fool the Zorathians' best technology. He passed around a picture of it, and the group smiled. They liked tricks that didn't need fighting. Captain Alina, Javier's fiancée, was there too. Her ship, the Starhawk, was fast and sneaky. Alina's eyes were sharp and her voice was steady. "I can get close to the fortress," she said. "My ship is small enough to slip through their defenses. I'll drop Max's codes right into their systems." Alina had already made one Zorathian ship disappear by tricking its navigation. Now she was ready to do more. She held the silver ring Javier gave her, promising herself she'd bring him home. Leo, the builder and May's best friend, sat quietly, sketching on a tablet. He wasn't a soldier, but he was good at making things. "I've built drones," he said, showing a picture of small, round machines. "They can stick to Zorathian walls and shut down their power. We can use them to make the fortress dark." Leo's drones were like tiny helpers, able to fly where ships couldn't. He had already tested them on a Zorathian satellite and they worked perfectly. The group liked his idea. It was another way to fight without hurting anyone. General Marcus, Sam's uncle, stood with his arms crossed. He was big, with a voice that could make a room go quiet. Marcus led Earth's ground soldiers, but today he was thinking about space. "My team can help Max," he said. "We've learned how to send his codes from far away. We can turn off Zorathian lights and locks without ever leaving Earth." Marcus's soldiers were training in a secret base, practicing with computers instead of guns. They were ready to join the fight, hitting the Zorathians where they least expected it. Zara, Tara's wife, sat next to Marcus. She was a rescue pilot used to saving people stuck in space. Her hands were steady, but her heart raced thinking about Tara. "I'm building a map of the fortress," she said. "I've been flying near the dark cloud, picking up signals. I think I know where the silent chamber is." Zara's rescue ship had special scanners that could see through the Zorathians' tricks. She shared her map with the group, showing a glowing dot where the humans were held. Everyone leaned closer, excited to know where their loved ones were. Ali, Omar's brother, was the trader who knew every corner of the galaxy. He leaned back in his chair, his eyes sharp. "I've got friends out there," he said. "Other aliens who don't like the Zorathians. They're sending me information, ship routes, weak spots, secret codes." Ali's network was like a web, connecting Earth to faraway places. He had already helped find the dark cloud where the fortress hid. Now he was gathering more clues, passing them to the group like pieces of a puzzle. Grace, Sophie's mother, ran Earth's biggest space station. She sat at the table's other end, her face calm but strong. "My station is tracking everything," she said. "Every Zorathian ship, every signal, we're the eyes of this plan." Grace's screens showed where the attacks had happened, the missing ships, the dark stations. She was making sure every move was perfect, like a coach guiding a team. She also sent messages to friendly aliens, asking for help without telling them too much. Grace was good at keeping secrets, and she knew this plan had to stay hidden. Admiral Kim, Ben's mother, was the last to speak. She led Earth's entire space navy, and her voice was quiet but powerful. "We're not here to start a war," she said. "We're here to get our people back and show the Zorathians they can't hurt us." Admiral Kim had a plan to use all the group's ideas together: Max's codes, Sarah's ships, Dr. Patel's signals, Alina's stealth, Leo's drones, Marcus's hacks, Zara's maps, Ali's clues, and Grace's tracking. She wanted to hit the Zorathians hard but smart, without losing anyone. The room was quiet as they worked. No one raised their voice. No one argued. They all had one goal: save the 10 humans and make the Zorathians sorry. They didn't want to destroy the fortress or hurt the Zorathians. They wanted to show them Earth was strong, too strong to mess with. The plan was like a machine, with each person as a part, working together perfectly. Max started sharing his next step. He had found a way to get into the fortress's main computer. "It's like their brain," he said. "If we control it, we control everything: doors, lights, even their mind-reading machines." He showed a diagram of the fortress, with lines showing where his codes would go. The group listened closely, asking questions. Max explained it in simple words, making sure everyone understood. His plan was risky, but it could free the humans without a fight. Sarah added her part. "My fleet will stay outside the dark cloud," she said. "We'll use Dr. Patel's device to make the Zorathians think we're somewhere else. While they're confused, Alina can sneak in." Sarah's ships were big, but she knew how to hide them. She had trained her pilots to fly in patterns that tricked enemy sensors. Her fleet would be like a ghost, there but not there, keeping the Zorathians busy. Dr. Patel showed his signal jammer again. "I've made it stronger," he said. "It can fool their whole fleet for hours." He explained how it worked, using simple words. The jammer sent fake signals, like telling a ship to go left when it should go right. The Zorathians would chase shadows while the real plan happened. Dr. Patel's eyes shone with hope. He was doing this for Asia, and he wasn't going to fail. Alina spoke next. "The Starhawk is ready," she said. "I'll carry Max's codes and Leo's drones. I can drop them near the fortress and get out fast." Alina had flown through dangerous places before, dodging lasers and asteroids. She wasn't scared of the Zorathians' defenses. Her ship was her partner, and she trusted it to keep her safe. She looked at the group, her face determined. "I'm bringing Javier home," she said. Leo held up his tablet, showing his drones. "I've made hundreds," he said. "They're small, but they can shut down anything: lights, doors, even air systems." He explained how the drones would stick to the fortress and send signals to Max's codes. Together, they could make the fortress go dark, giving the humans a chance to escape. Leo's hands were steady as he spoke. He was thinking of May, his best friend, waiting for rescue. Marcus nodded. "My soldiers are ready to help Max," he said. "We'll send codes from Earth, keeping the Zorathians busy." His team had been practicing for days, learning how to hack from far away. They could turn off a Zorathian camera or lock a door without ever leaving their base. Marcus's voice was deep and sure. He was doing this for Sam, his nephew, and he wasn't going to stop. Zara shared her map. "The silent chamber is here," she said, pointing to a spot in the fortress. "I've scanned the cloud and I'm sure." Her map showed tunnels and rooms, all glowing on the screen. Zara's scans were like a treasure map, showing the group exactly where to go. She looked at the others, her eyes fierce. "Tara's in there and I'm getting her out," she said. Ali leaned forward. "My friends found a weak spot," he said. "The fortress has a power core. If we hit it with Leo's drones, it'll shut down their shields." Ali's clues were like gold, giving the group a target. He had talked to traders and aliens who knew the Zorathian secrets. Now he was using those secrets to help Earth. His voice was calm, but his heart was racing for Omar. Grace tied it all together. "My station will watch every move," she said. "We'll tell you when it's safe to strike." Her screens showed the galaxy, with dots for Zorathian ships and stations. She was like the group's eyes, seeing everything. Grace's voice was steady, but she was thinking of Sophie, her daughter. She wasn't going to let her down. Admiral Kim spoke last. "This is our plan," she said. "We hit them with codes, drones, and tricks. We free our people and show the Zorathians we're strong. No war, no blood, just victory." She looked at each person, her eyes strong. "We're doing this for Lila, Tom, Aisha, Javier, May, Sam, Tara, Omar, Sophie, and Ben." The group nodded, their faces set. They were ready. The meeting ended and the room went quiet. Everyone left to start their work. Max went to his computers writing more codes. Sarah called her pilots giving orders. Dr. Patel tested his jammer. Elena fueled her ship. Leo built more drones. Marcus trained his soldiers. Zara checked her maps. Ali sent messages to his friends. Grace watched her screens. Admiral Kim stood by a window, looking at the stars, thinking of Ben. The plan was secret, but it was strong. No one outside the room knew about it, not the news, not the Zorathians, not even most humans. But it was moving, like a river flowing to the sea. The Zorathians thought they were safe in their fortress, but Earth was ready. The 10 humans in the silent chamber didn't know the plan, but they could feel hope. Their families were coming, and the Zorathians were about to learn what humans could do.